That's something that I always fucking hate. I'm already swearing.
I keep forgetting that there's a camera.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm going to be looking at you for majority of it.
That's what you're supposed to do.
Which, I guess, yeah, is what is supposed to happen. But, like...
I do hate when people are like, oh, man, you jumped, 3 feet in the air. And it's like, I can't tell if I just don't know that I react to things or not anymore. Because so many people are like... When they do the 21 gun salute for Memorial Day or whatever, people are like, oh, you jumped so high. I was like, I feel like I went maybe like that. But
I'll say, when they do that, I just go,
yeah.
I jump
a little bit because it's gunshots. That's not something I normally hear in.
Even when I'm prepared for it, it's like we do this every year. Like, psych yourself out.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
Oh, okay.
Hold on.
Okay.
All right. So, welcome to the Corner Table Podcast. I'm Matthew. This is Jordan.
Yeah, I'm Jordan.
And, all right,
Wonderful start.
Yeah.
We have absolutely no
podcasting experience.
No podcasting experience, no notes, no nothing.
I actually have notes from last year.
Do you?
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, you
just
have...
stories to talk about, because I forget a lot. So I'm actually...
most of my notes are done in on my voice recorder. So if I got those out, it would kind of be a little.
It'd be kind of not a good idea.
No, it wouldn't be a good idea at all.
Yeah, I think it's called podcast topics. I have a lot of these.
I just smelled into this bag.
Why would you do that?
A very good garlic parmesan pretzel crisps. Not sponsored, by the way.
Podcast subjects.
In case you couldn't tell, but it smelled like cat food. It smells like cat food. I don't know why. It definitely doesn't taste like cat food unless it's stale. Time to find out. Have fun with that.
Right. So I found my notes. So I'm actually going to start with something that's not on my notes. Yesterday, Henry and I I don't know what it is. I think it's me. Actually, I'm pretty sure it's me. We get approached a lot by people who are, I don't know, they do drugs or they are very promiscuous, that sort of thing. And today at Walmart, we were just getting Mountain Dew because he just spent the night last night and we played video games. It was great. It was a good time. But at Walmart, we were in the soda aisle and the next aisle over is the alcohol aisle. And I thought I heard someone from our class, or 2 people actually from our class, in the alcohol aisle. And I was like, oh, why? And then they turned the corner and I realized they were not people from our class. They were 2 middle-aged men. One who was vaping and the other one who was just fucking around in the meat and cheese area. So I commented Henry, I was like, oh, I thought those were high schoolers. I guess they're middle-aged men. I don't think the guy who was vaping heard me. I actually recorded this earlier, us telling this story, but I'm going to do it again because it's not going to get anywhere if it's on my phone. But as we're walking past, he makes his vape cloud, and then he picks up one of the air fresheners from the display, and he just kind of sprays it around his cloud. And I was confused by that. I don't know if maybe he was vaping weed. I don't know if that's a thing. I might sound like an idiot. I don't know.
I mean, you can vape marijuana.
Yeah, I thought so.
I believe so.
If you can vape tobacco, you can probably vape.
I don't know from personal experience, but
yeah. So he approaches us, more specifically me, but both of us for the most part. He's like, "Hey, you guys hoping to have a good time tonight?" And I'm assuming innocently for once. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna hang out tonight and chill. And he's like, he said something. To this moment, I still cannot understand what the fuck he said, but he repeated it like 3 times because I was like, what? And then finally he was like, oh, do you guys like pussy? Yeah. And we're walking down the side aisle area, and he keeps motioning for me to like follow him down an aisle. And I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. So we're walking, and he asks that. I'm like, oh, that's weird. So I give him an answer, yes, because I'm a straight man. I enjoy vagina from my girlfriend, I guess. I guess.
Well.
And then he says, oh, do you guys like blowjobs? And so at this point, I'm kind of fucking with him. I say, yeah, but my old lady, she didn't want to give me one today. He's like, oh, you should say fuck off to her. I got some girls you can have some fun with. And it's at this point that I realize that he's trying to invite us to do something. And he makes a point to bring up that he's from Detroit. He's only going to be in town for a few hours. And he brought these girls with him. He wanted to fuck with them, but I guess he can't for some reason. And he's like, I'll show you pictures, for free or whatever. I'm like, nah, I got my friends at work to show me pictures. He's like, And at that point, he made the point, oh, I'm from Detroit. I'll only be here for a couple hours. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. He's like, you sure, man? You sure? I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. And in my head, I'm like, if this keeps going, I'm just going to say, hey, just leave. Leave me alone. But I don't want to get in a fight because I'm not really good fighting. So finally, it seems to be winding down to like a close. He's about to leave, and he's like, yeah, and these are bad bitches, man. It's like, okay, yeah, have fun. Whatever. We leave. We get to the self-checkout, and I'm like, why does this always happen to us? Henry's like, right? Because it happens to us quite frequently when it's just me and him. Like, I think I told you this story about Enemy Midwest last year.
Maybe. Tell it again for the people.
Yeah, that was the plan. We went to Anime Midwest, our first day there, or I guess night. We got there at like 7 p.m. I don't know. So we get there, we get our tickets. We're just kind of hanging out in Con Suite. That's the food area. I don't know. Did you go with last time? No, you did not. Okay.
Nope. Could not. I
Church.
Yes.
Yeah, you were singing.
Yeah, I was singing at my church, and it was the first time that I was singing at my church. So it was kind of like,
I don't want to miss that.
Yeah, it's kind of like the first day at a job. So it's kind of like a volunteer thing. And it kind of looks bad if you volunteer for something and then you don't show up for the first time.
Yeah. I've definitely had that before. I'm an awful person, by the way. But we get there and we're hanging out in Con Suite, and this guy, I believe he was cosplaying as Yamcha. I cannot remember. He comes up to us. He's like, hey, you guys smoke weed? They always seem to approach us with a question that is just like, what? So he says, hey, you guys smoke weed? I'm like, no,
not a general starting question.
Yeah, generally you don't start
Right.
with, hey, do you partake in marijuana? Or, hey, do you enjoy female genitalia? Generally, I like to start my conversations off with, hi, have you ever murdered a dog in your childhood?
I like to start my conversations off with, hey, are you an alcoholic?
Me too. No matter what their answer, you always say me too. You need something to kind of like relate to your friends with.
Right.
That's how we met, actually, at Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yes, we're raging alcoholics.
That's just a cover. Like he cut open a mountain. Okay.
Gone now.
Yeah. Good job. Very proud. So he comes up to us. He says, hey, you guys smoke weed? I'm like, no, not really. He's like, I'm trying to find this Krillin cosplayer. There's a guy dressed as Krillin. he's having a party in his hotel room, and you've never been to Anime Midwest, so I'm going to enlighten you right now. Anime Midwest takes place in like a hotel convention center, so like the whole first and like second floor is the convention center area, but then up is just hotel. So this Krillin cosplayer has a hotel room in the hotel, does not have a badge or anything to get into the event. And this guy comes up to us and he's talking to us about it. He's like, yeah, he's got like drugs, he's got alcohol, and like he doesn't even have a badge to get in. And I'm like, oh man. He's like, yeah, if you see him, just tell him to come find me because I really want to get into that party. And he's like, oh, okay. And then the next day they were constantly checking everyone's badges. Like security ramped up significantly, and it wasn't like they always do that, because I asked someone, like, is this a normal occurrence? I asked Cody, actually, the person that I met past time. I asked him, has it been like this, like, secure? He's like, no, it just kind of ramped up last year. It's like, I'm pretty sure I know why. And I told him the story. He's like, holy shit. So that was a fun story.
So what do you think that was for? Do you think like he took someone's badge, or like he copied someone's badge, or something?
I think he just didn't have a badge and they weren't looking, honestly.
So you think probably if he didn't have a badge and he got in, multiple people probably got in.
Oh, definitely.
Without a badge. And so now they're like, gotta get on that.
Yeah, and they were definitely still checking this past year. Though I will say I kind of snuck Alina and Eve into our panel, our on the spot panel, because it was an 18 plus panel.
Yeah. Oh goodness.
Because they were with us and we're the hosts, so we got in there before our panel was officially starting. So there wasn't any 18 plus check. And then a bunch of people started coming in, and then the person who was supposed to be checking IDs was like, I forgot to check all of your IDs. So she started checking all of the IDs of the audience. Didn't come up to us once. I was like, thank God.
Oh yeah, that would have been bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're lucky you got away with that. No, I hate it's not that I hate badge checking, but I hate when like you very obviously have your badge out and they're still kind of like badge. And it's like, well, it's
when have you like experienced that?
Well, I go to like I don't go to like anime conventions or anything, but like our kind of like conventions for church and stuff. Like we have badges for that, and you go up and sometimes you get. It's not like everyone does it, but like you get this occasional guy who's just like, I don't know, like power hungry, I guess, or something like that, and he's just like badge, and I'm like, it's literally I'm not like wearing a jacket or anything. It's very plainly around my neck.
Yeah, it's like that's his favorite part of the year is that convention, because he can tell people to raise their arm 3 inches.
Right. It's like, and then some of them don't check it at all. It's like,
yeah,
and it's like consistency.
Yeah, at the anime convention, like not even the lanyard that they hand out when you get your badge will do. Like if you're wearing a cosplay and it kind of like has fallen under like a piece of your cosplay or something, they like pull it out. And it's like I can understand that because it's a very similar lanyard every year. So I could have gone this year, and if they only checked to make sure you had the lanyard, I could have gotten through without paying $60 for
Yeah, that'd be. I could see where all that comes in. It's like I try not to judge in certain situations because it's like I don't know what it is like from the other side. Yeah. To an extent.
Because if they let someone through and they don't have a badge, and it's like this happened on your watch.
Yeah, that's gonna look bad.
Yeah.
It's like
no one wants that.
No. It's like I don't know. Then again, you could also work with the guy and be like, all right, here's what we'll do. I'll go in. I don't have a badge or anything, but if I get caught, our story is I had a badge when you saw me. I lost it.
I don't think they'll even do that, honestly.
I'm just saying, if you got one cool guy.
I really don't think so, because if it's like they did with the anime convention,
Yeah.
you either have to buy a badge when you get there, or you have to buy a badge in advance. And either way, you get put into the system. And so if you're not in the system and you're like, but I had a badge, it's like, but you didn't.
Yeah, well, if you get put into the system, I can understand that. Then.
Yeah. I don't know. It's probably not representative of all conventions. There's probably some conventions that are like, oh, we don't need a system.
I would imagine so. But that was kind of like our junior year prom was like, we had tickets, but then I don't know if you had this problem, but when I got there, they didn't even look at my ticket. They were like, they asked what the name was, and they looked on the sign-up sheet. Like, because the teacher had, like, put in all of the names of the people who came and bought tickets. And so he just checked it on all of the stuff, and I was like, so I have a ticket for no reason?
Yeah.
Like, there was no reason for me to bring it. It's like you get to keep it anyway.
Yeah.
But
I remember when I bought the ticket, I was like, do I need this for getting in? Because I'm very bad about bringing tickets and badges and that sort of thing. I'll leave them at home, and then like halfway to where I'm going, I'll be like, I forgot that thing that I needed to get.
I've done that, and it's really bad when you're going somewhere that's far away, somewhere that's not close by. So basically anything out of town.
Yeah, because out of town, like everything is.
Yeah.
Like half hour at least away.
Yeah, and it's like you get to like, I went to the camp that I go to every year, and one year I went. It's like a 2 hour drive. Forgot the ticket.
That sucks.
Ooh, yeah, it was bad, but it all ended up working out. It's like, if you know people really, it's really about it. And like with that, it's like, it's not too big, and I know some people, and I'm just like, hey, forgot the ticket.
For me, though, it extends to more than just like tickets and badges. For example, I just finished my motorcycle course last weekend. The first day, I get in the car, I leave town, and I am almost late at this point.
I realized I was out of frame.
Good job. But I'm almost late at this point, so I'm like, I can't stop for anything. I can't go back. I get onto the highway. I'm like, did I remember gloves? No, I didn't. And they're required for me to sign up for the course. Crap. So I get there, and they're like, okay, let me see your protective equipment. I have my boots. I have my pants. I have a leather jacket. I don't have gloves. I'm like, I'm sorry. I forgot my gloves at home. And he's like, can you get them real quick? I'm like, I live 15 minutes away from here, and the class starts in 5 minutes. I can't. He's like, well, that means you're going to be at the end of my list. I'm like, fuck. So I grab a chair, I sit down, and this guy next to me is like, hey, and he hands me his gloves. He says, hey, tell him that I had a spare pair of gloves that you can borrow. So I brought him up. I was like, hey, he has a pair that I can borrow. And he's like, okay, you'll be on the list then, but you're pushing it. Make sure that he brings those tomorrow, or that you bring gloves tomorrow. I was like, yeah. So I get back, and he's like, give me back my gloves, obviously. So I handed him back his gloves. The guy next to him was a walk-in student. We had 13 people. Every class is 12. The guy literally sitting next to him had to leave. And I was like, oh, fuck. So we get through the entire class. Honestly, this pissed me off a little bit. The entire like written or not written portion, the classroom portion. Because there's the on the range on the motorcycle, and then there's in a classroom with a book, it's high school. It's high school. You get split into 3 groups of 4. And they're like, okay, so group 1, do these pages and summarize. Group 2, do these pages and summarize. Like, this is just earth science class. But at least it's motorcycles, so it's a bit cooler. But then, like, I also got grouped with all of the people who don't want to put forth any effort. Except for the one guy who, like, gave me his gloves. He was with us, so he and I did most of the work, mostly him, because I'm like, I'm not going to do all the work for these 2 guys. No, they're either going to read or I'm not going to read. I'm not going to do this. Yeah. So at the end of the class, I'm like, hey, thank you for letting me borrow your gloves for this. And he's like, just get some fucking gloves, man. And I thought he was, like, mad at me. I was like, I didn't do anything. I'm sorry. So the next day, we're out on the course or whatever, and I brought my gloves that time. Well, actually, I didn't have gloves. Here's the thing. I have wool gloves, obviously, for the winter. And those actually count. Like, you just need something that covers your hands. They don't care what it is. Like, you're not supposed to wear jeans on a motorcycle, but I wore these.
Yeah.
I still wear these on a motorcycle. I don't care. That's probably dangerous. That's probably pretty dangerous.
Probably.
So are motorcycles in general, though.
Yeah, that's true.
But I get there. I finally have my gloves. I'm like, hey, I got my gloves like you told me. He's like, yeah, I was worried about the guy that was sitting next to me. Like, I didn't know if he was going to be waiting outside. Because he might, like, I could easily see someone getting pissed and just waiting outside to, like, confront the person that fucked them over.
Yeah.
Another funny story. So, it's also from the course. I'm gonna try and not sound like a bad person.
Good luck.
I am describing this person in this way not because I discriminate by race, but because it is important to the story. I feel like I have to make that clear because I'm white. So this very East Indian man was a part of the course, like one of the students.
Yeah.
And we went around in a circle and we introduced ourselves and why we want to learn how to ride a motorcycle. I did not understand a word he said throughout his entire thing. All I know is he said something about this country. That's all I heard. Like everything else, it was partly he had quite a thick accent. He had a thick East Indian accent.
Yeah. But
also just like I have bad hearing. We were talking about that earlier. I have bad hearing.
Yeah.
You have bad talking.
Right. I mumble a lot, so it doesn't quite work out between us because I mumble a lot and then you don't hear me anyway. So
yeah. So I didn't understand what he said. He said something about this country. And while we're in the course, I'm like, well, he's getting the hang of this. He's pretty good at this. He's handling it like a pro. And then finally, the last day comes around. It's Sunday. I'm the first one up because my last name starts with a B. And there's no A's or B's other than me. So I went up, and he's like, oh, you passed, blah, blah, blah. Your card will come in the mail eventually. Still haven't received my card. It's been a week. Come on. But so I'm just kind of waiting outside because I made a couple friends, and I was like, oh, I wonder if they passed. And I asked each person, oh, did you pass, blah, blah, blah. And I'm pretty sure that's actually probably kind of rude, but everyone was like, oh, yeah, I passed, except for one guy. I felt so bad. He was a pretty nice guy. He was very eager. He was not good at it. He was just not good. He couldn't do it.
We talked about that. It's like it really is terrible when like you want the bad guy to not succeed, like the person that is a jerk. You're like, oh man, if they don't pass, I'm not even gonna feel bad. Yeah. But like when it comes to someone who's bad at it, but they're a really nice person, it's like, I feel bad.
Yeah, the worst part was like the first day we were on the range, he accidentally like messed up on the bike, ended up dropping it and like fell, and I was like, oh man, are you okay? He's like, yeah, it's a good thing I don't really have an ego, otherwise I probably would be bothered by this. I was like, good on you, like that's awesome. And then he didn't pass and I was like, but you were so cool. But So the East Indian guy comes out. I don't know if his name is Dexter. One of them was named Dexter, and they got a perfect score. And the other one, Alex, got a perfect score. By the way, I'm pretty sure there was a gay couple in my course. I can't tell if they were gay or just good friends, because it kind of seemed like at one point they were cuddling, but I mean... sometimes we cuddle. That's a thing that happens. But...
Okay.
The East Indian guy comes out. I'm like, oh, did you pass? He's like, yeah, I passed. I've been riding motorcycles in my home country for 10 years. I needed to take the course so that I could get a motorcycle license here because my experience in India doesn't count. I was like, oh, well, that explains it. I guess that was what he was talking about when he said this country.
Yeah.
But
I mean that makes sense to an extent, but also kind of like it's kind of weird how some of those rules work.
Mm-hmm.
When it's like someone comes from another country and it's like your credentials don't matter here, and it's like,
but they're the same. It's just from a different country. I don't understand.
Right? It's like, like I don't know. It's weird, but
You keep doing that.
I do.
I'm pretty sure it keeps spiking on here.
It probably does.
I need to turn this.
I was about to say that. Doesn't really help that that's turned the other way, so I can't really see it. Although I still can't unless I do this. Oh, hey, yeah, I can see that. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it now, though.
Yeah, I can. I'm good. All right. Do you have any stories that you want to tell, by the way?
Let me think of any stories recently, because I felt like I had one, but I'm not quite sure. Most of my stories entail school is usually like what I have stories from, because it's either school or church stories or nothing really. I don't do much, although I am starting school tomorrow, community college.
Oh, yeah.
That's gonna be fun. The most ridiculous part for me is just like we have friends in high school, and they've already started school, and it's like they're like, oh man, you don't have to worry about this and everything. It's like, yeah,
but I do.
It's like, here's the thing. I think that college is not going to be as difficult with the whole thing of like there's less time invested into it. Like I have classes Mondays and Wednesdays, and one class on Tuesday, but that's it, and it's really not that much. But like my main problem is that like, I'm not going to know anybody. Specifically my music theory class, because while we live in a small town, well, I guess we live in two different small towns.
Yeah, but they're still pretty small.
Yeah.
I'll be right back. Terribly sorry. I just had some business to attend to. And by business, I mean, I don't know. Like, she wouldn't tell me. She was just like, I don't really want to ask you if you're in the middle of something. I was like, can you at least tell me what it is so I can gauge whether it's more important than this or not? Because if it's like, hey, can you go save this kitten's life from a dying tree? I don't know.
A dying tree, yes. All right.
The kitten and the tree are merged.
Where was I again?
I don't remember.
Music theory. I was talking about how like it's gonna be really bad with music theory because we both live in small towns, very close to each other. Went to the same high school because that's how small the towns around this small town are. In my small town, there's a high school that other small towns also go to. Matthew comes from one of these other small towns.
Yeah, it's like 15 miles away from where I live.
Yes, and it's like the actual campus is in a bigger city,
Oh, the actual community college campus?
Yeah, there's classes that I can take in my town, but the actual campus where I would be taking music theory, because they don't offer it in my town as a class, is going to be in that bigger city. And it's like there's no one from my town that's going to be in that class. And it's a class of, as far as I know, 16 now, because technically it's supposed to be a max capacity of 15, but I signed up late. And he was like, yeah, it's fine. He was like, you can come in. So
you're small enough, you don't count as a whole person.
Yeah, basically. I was supposed to talk to him about private lessons, didn't. So I'm probably going to have to go in either early or stay later and talk to him tomorrow about that. But yeah, it's going to be fun because I have to go down there, figure out where I'm going. Class is at 9:30.
And how far is it? Like 45 minutes?
Yeah, about yeah.
Yeah, so it's like you'd have to get up at like 7:30 or something.
Yeah.
To get ready and then be there early enough to figure out where you're gonna go, maybe.
Yeah, and it's like I don't know. It's very like I want to say that's probably the most difficult thing for me. Is like I don't care about how much homework I'm gonna have or whatever, which is apparently going to be a lot because credit hours goes by not only the hours that you have in the class, but by the homework as well.
Really?
Yeah, it's like based on the hours of homework that you would have as well. And most classes are 3 credit hours. Like all of my other classes are 3 credit hours. The class itself is 2 hours. Which is smaller than it's less than 2 hours, which is smaller than my other classes, but it is 4 credit hours. So homework. But then again, if you think about like I don't know, I guess if you think about it in total, maybe it's not as much, but it's still gonna be kind of scary because it's like there's a difference between doing stuff like music theory with people that you know and like having a small class of people that you know and then having a small class of people that you've no idea who they are, but most of them might know each other.
Yeah, I can imagine that will suck because you just kind of feel like I'm intruding on this entire
I've
group.
seen those people too. Like those people have come to our school, like that are homeschooled but need a specific class like driver's ed or something.
Or band.
Yeah. And they come in and, well, some of them, and they sit there and they don't talk to anybody. That's pretty much going to be me until someone talks to me and is eventually like, hey, you need to talk more.
You need to come out of your shell. And it's like, I don't have a shell. I just don't know any of you.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting.
I kind of had something sort of like that around 5th grade because I was like super uber smart up until 2nd grade and they were like, oh, we should put you up 2 grades. And then our principal, who is the father of someone we know who actually went up 1 grade, said no because my son went up 1 grade and he's having trouble socially. And it's like, but you see he hates all of his classmates, so it's fine. And he's like, no. So my parents took me out of school and they homeschooled me for 2 years. And then they decided to put me back into grade school. I can't remember why. I remember really wanting to go back to grade school. I remember breaking down crying at one point because I was so lonely. And I just wanted to have friends again.
Yeah.
That's depressing. So finally I go back, but at this point it's been 2 years. People have come and gone. New people have come in. I am on the outside, and I don't know anybody anymore except for, like, 1 person.
Yeah.
So I had 1 friend, and then I would make friends with the new people. So I'm like, I'm still kind of new, too. Let's be friends. Then everyone else is like, you're stupid, Matthew. You watch gay midget porn. Actually a thing someone said about me. someone like literally in the cafeteria, because the cafeteria is like a small gymnasium.
Yeah.
And it's like 2 picnic tables for each class because it's Odell, so it's like small to mid-size. It's not small like Vermont. I'm just gonna say town names.
Okay. Well, I don't care.
It seemed like you were avoiding it.
I just didn't know if we were avoiding it or not.
Yeah. It's obviously not like 5-person a class, Greymont or whatever, but it's just like 2 picnic tables of people, so you can hear everything that's said. And there's one kid, he's like, "Oh man, Matthew watches gay midget porn when he goes home." It's like, okay, but I don't.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Back in elementary school was, for me, crueler than high school. Like,
yeah.
It seemed like people were so much more against you than in high school. Then again, still a weird kid in high school, but I was much worse in elementary school. And I don't think it's a sense of change. It's a sense of you have to know when to be weird and when to not be weird.
Yeah.
And it's like around some people you act normal, and around some people you can be different.
Yeah, but it was even if I acted normal in grade school, they'd make fun of me anyway for things that like I don't even do. And I think it definitely helped getting into high school. There's a lot broader range of people.
Well, yeah, because you're not confined to the people that you've known this whole time. You can literally you can start over. Most of my friends came from people who didn't come from the junior high.
Yeah.
With me. Like you and Henry and I mean Patrick came from junior high, but he's still not even in the same grade level as me.
Yeah. Like none of my friends are from my school except for like 2, and I don't talk to them. I talked to one of them so that they would take my motorcycle because it wouldn't run.
Yeah. But like it's like, happens. School's just because I don't know if I told you this, but I told Patrick. It was kind of like we got to once after we graduated and everything. Kind of go into a long story, not too long, but kind of like throughout high school, but obviously they don't. I was very I was a slacker basically. From freshman year, I did not want to be a slacker. I tried to like do my homework and everything, but like I remember the first time that I didn't do an assignment was in my RET class. For those who don't know what RET is, it's Advanced English.
For when you're smarter than everyone else. And sometimes they'll just like throw random kids in there.
I mean, really, RET is just glorified English where all of the students copy off of each other and totally spark notes everything that we read.
I didn't do that. I was there for 1 year.
I did. I didn't copy off of other people for the most part, but I spark notes pretty much everything because I never had time.
I always felt bad in RET 3 because like we would get partnered together because we sat together. It's like, write a summary on this part of the story. And it's like I wouldn't read the story because I'd just come home and forget, and then we'd come back to school and it's like you did the whole thing. I'm like, oh, thanks.
I mean, I usually work better by myself anyway when it comes to stuff like that and cleaning. But I remember Rep 1. It wasn't the first time that I missed this assignment. We had this weekly vocabulary thing, and sometimes I would just forget about it because it was due on a Thursday.
That's just...
Who does a weekly thing that's due on a Thursday? So I was always like, I always forgot when the due date was, and I forgot to get it done by then. And it was like by I think it was the second or third, maybe the third time. But I mean, think about it. I'm in my freshman year. It's the first time I've been to high school, obviously.
It's actually your 6th time.
Right.
You're actually 35.
And my teacher pulled me out of class, and he said, you don't have to be in this class. He said, this is a privilege. I can take you out of this class. And I was like, okay. Whatever. Basically, and I made it through the class. Still don't like that teacher.
I'm trying to think of which teacher that was.
Our speech teacher.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, was it that guy? Because it was like, I don't think it was contemporary literature teacher. He would never do that.
No.
But that's like the only other male teacher that I can think of.
Yeah. But, I mean, he's an okay guy. I didn't like him as a teacher. Which there were a bunch of those in our high school. It's like good people weren't very good teachers.
Yeah.
But and it's kind of like similarly someone told a student, I guess, since she had been failing up until the end of the year, but she still passed with like an A or a B. And they said that the teacher said that they were taking her out of the rep program and she would not be able to be put back in. And I was like, you don't get to make that decision. It was like, you get to make the decision for your class, but you are not in charge of all of those classes. So one, I mean, yeah, you can say that, but also you don't get to choose. The next teacher really gets to choose. And the guidance office both have the biggest say. They can recommend, the teachers before can recommend what class you go to, especially with math. They'll be like, well, you did poorly in this class, so we're not going to move you up to an advanced class, or we'll take you down.
See, they're supposed to do that. Sometimes, though, you get a D in geometry, and they say, that's fine. We'll just put you in the Advanced Algebra 2 Trig class, which you then fail your junior year, and then you have to retake the regular Algebra 2 senior year. I'm not mad, just come on.
Yeah.
Why did you do this to me? I could have done something better with that hour of time. I fell asleep in that class so much because I knew what I was doing already. It was the basic part, like the first quarter of the Algebra 2 Trig.
Exactly.
And I actually paid attention and it did well there. If there's an entire class made out of that, I don't understand. I'm not going to get it.
You should have been able to like take a test or something.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But as I was saying, like I was kind of a slacker, and I feel like it kind of started there because I started getting like self-doubt and everything. Although I had gotten probably one of the best compliments from that teacher when parent-teacher night, he told my parents, he said that while I was a freshman, I acted like a sophomore. So he wasn't necessarily saying that I was as mature as a sophomore, but he was more saying like the way I interacted with people was as a sophomore, like I had already been there. Which for the most part I did, because junior high, they kind of crammed it into our heads that high school would be the hardest thing ever. And the teachers would not work with you, they wouldn't do anything, which is completely not true.
Yeah.
A lot of the teachers will work with you, some of them won't because they're jerks. But most of them will work with you, and if they're a good teacher. Something that I had thought about the other day, because we had a couple teachers who did this, and I was just like, man, if there's a teacher, if you're a teacher and you don't value student opinion, you have no right to be in a high school classroom.
Yeah.
If anything, go to a college, and not like a private college that's small or anything. I mean, maybe a private college that's bigger, but probably a bigger college where you don't have to deal with students individually. And even then, that's still like one of our teachers, I won't get specific.
I think I know who you're talking about.
I won't get specific, but and this let me say, this person is a good person outside of teaching. I had frequent conversations with this person, and like I said, they were pleasant conversations. Even our not so pleasant conversations were real. They weren't like a fake conversation that was just aggravating. It could get aggravating, but at least I knew that there was something going on. Like, we were communicating. So that was a good thing in my eyes. However, this teacher had some philosophies that I did not agree with, such as yelling at the kids and saying going really far in statements that I just didn't see the need for, and especially with freshman classes. You do it for freshman classes, and I'm just like, it's really hard to get on with that, because it's like, for some of these people, this subject is what they want to go into, or the subject is something that is very helpful, very relaxing to them almost.
Or it's even like completely therapeutic, like it's helped them through some hard times to be doing that.
Yeah, and I told one of my friends, I was like, it used to be my favorite class of the day, and then eventually it got to the point where I was scared to go to the class.
That is why I quit. That's exactly why, because I didn't, like, I had deep-seated regret every time I was like, well, guess I have that class next.
Yeah, and then it was kind of like, oh man, is he in a good mood or is he in a bad mood?
Yeah.
So that was one thing, but it's like, even then, it wasn't too bad. But I think my main problem with this person was I don't feel like they were the most honest person. A couple of times we had a problem where there was one that we sent him an email. He replied to it with a file. It had a file in it, a video that he was supposed to watch for a project. And he sent back, it looks good. And then I think a month later, maybe over a week or something.
I think it was like 2 months later.
2 months later, Matthew got a request saying that person wanted to open the file. Requested to open the file.
He did not have access to the file at any point, and I did not realize that. And
that was after he had already said that it looked good, which meant that he had not seen it. So that kind of dislocated my trust with this person. And the other thing is I think that a main reason that he didn't quite like me in class was because of my attendance. Very poor attendance.
And
that
wasn't exactly your fault, though.
Some of it was, some of it wasn't. I was sick quite often, but some of it was just, I still, it is my fault, but it isn't. It was general anxiety. So I felt sick, and in that sense it wasn't my fault, but it also kind of was, because the anxiety was self-caused by just not doing my schoolwork. But this person, instead, he never came out and said that was the problem. He would give excuse after excuse after excuse about why he treated me the way he treated me. And one of the things, like the biggest things, was I had gone on and competed in something and made it to state and the honors section of the state thing, and he said he held me to a higher standard, which I believed, and I still believe that he legit meant that, but I can't help but feel like attendance was kind of the biggest issue. And I feel like if he would have said that, I would have agreed with him. I wouldn't have told him he was wrong, because I would have been like, everything else I could tweak and say, okay, but that's still not a good enough reason, or that's not a good enough reason, or that doesn't make sense. Like, and then that seemed to be the only logical explanation to me. I think that he saw that I wasn't putting my best foot forward, and I think he got mad at me for that. And not necessarily like mad at me like oh, this is just a terrible thing sometimes, but I think he was mad at me for me. And it's like I told someone else, I was like, I understand his side, don't necessarily agree with it, but I do understand it, and I can respect it. Don't necessarily agree with it, but I do respect it. I just don't respect that. I don't think he was quite honest with me. But yeah, so I was never very good in high school, and I ended my entire high school career with like a 2.7 GPA. Not the best.
No.
Uh,
It's okay.
and it probably would have been higher. The unfortunate thing is that my Spanish class, and I'll be upfront with this one.
Yeah.
My Spanish 2 class, the teacher and I did not get along. I didn't quite do the homework as much as I should have. I didn't keep up with it as much as I should have. And her late policy was that if you turned something in, you had to turn in this giant packet with it. Every late assignment, you had to turn in this packet of vocabulary words that you had to write out over and over again. At least 8 times on one page. And there were like 8 pages to these things, and you would have to turn in a different packet each time you turned in a different assignment. So it wasn't like one packet per assignments that you turn in. Like I couldn't turn in 3 assignments and hand her one packet with all 3 of those assignments. I would have to hand her all 3 of those late assignments with 3 packets on top of that. And these packets were just extras of a packet that we already had to do. So it was very difficult to catch up in that class. I understand the reason why the system was put in place to kind of avoid people doing it in the first place. But the problem is that if someone can't, like there was a legit cause for me to be gone for a very long period of time. And I wasn't able to keep up with the homework. And unfortunately, that system caused it to snowball to where I literally could not catch up. And she made a deal with my parents and I that I could turn in all this homework at a certain time, certain day, certain place. And if I turned it in by that time, she would grade it all without having to do any of the packets or anything, and she would grade it all, put it in the grade book. It would be fine. And if it raised it above failing, that would be fine. And I still think I could have pursued this if I had really wanted to. But I went to the teacher's classroom before the said time, and this was before Christmas break during finals time, really. And it was the year that we had optional finals because some recent tragedies had taken place. And so I just came into the school and was like, hey, I need to turn these assignments into a certain teacher. Well, apparently she had decided to go home because she didn't have anyone else taking a final. So she just decided to go home before the time she was supposed to actually go home. And now mind you, I went to try to find her with an administrator. There was an administrator present the whole time. The only problem was there was not an administrator to hear the deal that happened. And that was the biggest problem. But we put all of the assignments in her mailbox, came back from Christmas break, and she said, well, I didn't get them before Christmas break, so it doesn't count. And I was kind of like, okay, but that's on you. You decided to leave early. We decided on this time. And so I actually ended up, that year, my entire GPA, because of that class, because I failed both semesters, was a 2.0.
Jeez.
For the entire semester, because of one class. And it brought down some of my other grades, not to failing point, but it brought down my other grades because I was trying to keep up with this class. And my other teacher saw it too, to the point where we had to set up what is called a 504, which is basically kind of like a disability thing for mental illness, I guess, to the point where it's like I definitely had focus problems, but also my anxiety had gotten to a point where I literally could not stand it. And we had to make basically like a contract that said that if any deal was made with the teacher, it had to be written, and it had to be sent in an email to the administration and to my parents. The person, obviously, for that teacher, because that teacher had made a deal with not only myself, but my parents, and did not stick to that deal, and caused me to fail a class. And then the rest of my high school career, I wasn't very good on attendance, but I did keep up with my grades for the most part. and I passed, but I passed with a 2.7. And if I had not taken Spanish 2 class and had that teacher, I would not have had a 2.7, I guarantee you, because all of my other years I had above a 3.0. So that 2.0 is what brought me down. That just goes to show you how one class, one teacher can make or break your whole high school career. But even after that, I kind of slacked off, and recently I went to sleep and I had a dream where I started going to school. Like, it was like we started school, and I was keeping up with the homework and everything, and I was doing really well. And then one day I decided basically to just not do my homework because I wanted to hang out with friends. And in my head, it all happened like at once. It all spiraled out of control, and I became super anxious. When I woke up, I still thought that I had school, and I still thought that I was in that predicament that I was in, and I immediately went back to how I was during high school, where I became super anxious, and that's why I didn't go to school. And that's the feeling that I had. And then I realized, oh wait, I don't have to, but I do have college.
Yeah.
So the best thing to do is to try to keep up with my college stuff. But, I mean, gonna have to figure out all of that. That's a whole nother story.
Yeah. With me, my entire schooling experience, once I got back from homeschooling, was this. It was, my town has nothing to do. And you can see it now. There's a lot of kids that are like stealing bikes, doing just crazy shit, because there's nothing to do here. You can only ride your bike around so many times in a 1 mile square before it starts to just become like, what can I do to entertain myself? And see, I was introduced from a very young age to computers and video games, so I occupied all my time with video games.
Yeah.
But then that started to develop into sort of an unhealthy habit, and then basically an addiction, to the point where I got back, I was in the 5th grade. It was literally, I would come home from school, I'd play video games, and I wasn't handing in homework, and I finally started to get a handle on it like 8th grade, but then it kind of started going again, and then I actually finally had friends who I could talk to, and it's like, oh, I can talk to these friends, and that sort of thing. And so I ended on a 2.7 GPA without any, like, sort of completely of a fault of my own. Like,
yeah.
And I could have avoided it if I had just done my homework before I decided to enjoy myself with video games and that sort of thing.
Yeah. It's very haunting, honestly, and that's how I explained it, especially with the dream that I had. It was really a nightmare. It was crazy. It's like, and they say they tell you in high school. They say these decisions, if you make the wrong ones, will haunt you. And it's like, yeah, that literally happened to me, and I didn't think it would. I was like, I'll get out of high school, I'll be fine.
Yeah,
like
we all were like, yeah, right, loser. We'll be
I won't
fine.
have to worry about it. And it's there's so many cliche things that are said during high school that are so true, but you don't want to listen to it because it sounds so cliche. It's like that is so corny. I don't want to listen to it. And it's like, but it's good advice, and it's unfortunate that it is that way and that we think that way. If I may, I would kind of like to switch topics over to this podcast.
Okay. Go right ahead.
So this is kind of towards the audience, I guess. This podcast came really out of the blue.
Yeah.
I kind of just said, because we both have been interested in doing a podcast
for a while.
Yeah.
Like about a year and a half, I'd say.
Yeah, and we've both. It wasn't necessarily that we wanted to do a podcast together. Just separately, we had both wanted to do podcasts, and the other day I was sitting with one of my friends and we talked for like 3 hours, and I was like, I kind of want to do a podcast because I feel like I could do that. It'd be fun. And so that I messaged Matthew and I said, hey, what are you doing? this
tomorrow.
day. Yeah. So it's basically, I think, it
was yesterday, and you were like, "Hey, what are you doing tomorrow?"
And we talked back and forth, and then we finally decided that we would do this podcast. We were hoping to have more people, but they could not make it.
Yeah.
So
unfortunately.
So it was a kind of a one-on-one thing, but maybe in the future we'll have more people, and that'll be fun.
Yeah, because it'd be nice to have more people, because it's kind of like, it's very one-on-one right now, and I can kind of tell that, like, it can get kind of boring at certain points where it's like, okay, well, I don't have anything that I can comment about what he's saying.
Right.
So
and
it's just
like
his voice for like 20 minutes.
Exactly. Like, that's exactly what I've been noticing.
If there's more people, there's more of a variety of stories, but people are like, oh yeah, I had this sort of experience that was kind of like that. And
right. And it's like with us specifically, neither one of us have podcasted before.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then there's the fact that it is one-on-one, and not only is it one person usually will talk at one time, but it's kind of like it gets awkward because we don't know when. It's harder to transition with only two people, really.
Yeah.
With more people, you kind of get more of a difference in variety in story, and it kind of usually transitions very smoothly in a conversation, whereas kind of like what we've seen today is that it didn't run too smoothly. It wasn't bad,
but it could have been better.
It could have been better, which I mean, like I said, it's our first podcast, so can't really fault us. I mean, you can, that's your prerogative, but and so hopefully this will become a more often thing.
Yeah, I'd like it to become more of a regular thing. I don't know. I don't think we'll do weekly yet.
Yeah,
I don't think we're quite ready for that. But maybe like every couple of weeks we'll try to get together, have a couple more people over here in this blank area between us.
Yes.
And maybe that might actually kind of fill it out more, and we can kind of get more experience under our belts. It can actually become more of an enjoyable thing. Because I know for you and I, we definitely enjoy podcasts where it's just kind of friends talking and telling stories. But
yeah,
I never know whether my stories are interesting enough to put into a podcast.
For like this podcast has pretty much been our own personal experiences that are somewhat relatable, somewhat interesting, and that can be good, but it's also kind of the fact that we kind of just did this on the fly. Mm-hmm. So we didn't have anything prepared to talk about. So we kind of I guess you did.
I didn't end up talking about anything on that list. I think I talked about one thing.
We'll save that for the next time. But it's kind of like, I feel like once we do have that and we all kind of go over, hey, these are some of the topics we want to talk about. Maybe a new video game that's coming out, maybe some news that's something topical that's happening, or just something that happened interesting in our lives, like that we all maybe had happened to us at one point. But obviously, like we said, right now it's kind of like we don't know if it's too boring. We don't know. Yeah. It's really a big test. This whole thing has been just one big test. But I think it has gone pretty well.
Yeah, I think on a scale of 1 to 10, we're definitely above like 2.
And that's good, because some podcasts are a 2 and some podcasts are 1. Some podcasts are 0, and that's because they don't exist. And that
was this podcast until today.
Exactly. And now we're no longer 0.
We're somewhere around the 3. Definitely not a 2. That's gonna be the name of this episode. It's definitely not a 2.
Definitely not a 2. Yeah. So I mean, I think that's good, right? So I mean, thanks for listening or watching, whatever you're doing. If you've made it to this point, thanks. If you haven't made it to this point, well, I mean, I guess I can't really say anything to you because you're not listening.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I did it again. Anyway,
We've done it like 3 times in the past 2 minutes.
We will see you next time.